So here with Conan, a client who's originally from Vancouver, currently lives in the US, who's come all the way over to Dubai. We've helped Conan scale his business to over $30,000 a month. Crush it social media. I'm going to go through some of the things we have helped him fix and then what his plans are next. Firstly, one of the things you said that when you came in with us was from a sales aspect and in particular lead flow. You had a lot of traffic, and we spoke before filming this that there's a difference between views and then also leads. What was the problem you had?
Yeah, so initially I got into content, just obviously giving out free tips, and I blew up a couple times. But there's a big difference between having a video go viral versus a video do somewhat well, but with the right audience. Because a video could very well go viral, but if you get the wrong people to watch it, it's literally not what you want. And so really honing into like my ideal client avatar and then making specific videos based on that audience and then trying for that to go viral. That's been like the biggest thing for me to get better quality leads in.
Yeah, because it's all views aren't the same, and it's speaking specifically to the pain point, the problem, the person who you actually want to sell, and identifying who that avatar person is.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like if you know the person inside and out, you know exactly what their pain points are, their struggles are, which honestly you should know if you have a bunch of similar clients anyway. It just makes your content a lot easier because let's say I have 50 clients and they all kind of have similar pain points. It gives me a bunch of content ideas to make on content, right? So,
what would be an example of the specific pain points for your clients that you fix on now from a content aspect?
Yeah, so funny enough, I actually coach my dad for free.
Oh, sick.
And so whenever he submits his check-in form, like I can literally see what he's struggling with, or at least when I first got started, he gave me a bunch of ideas of, he suffered from like lower testosterone levels, kind of felt a bit insecure with his shirt off at the beach, for example, started noticing lower energy levels. He was running a bunch because he thought running was like the best way to burn body fat, but then he was having like joint and connective tissue pain, right? And so those were kind of initially how I got most of my ideas from. And then as I started making content around that, I started to kind of target more people who had those pain points. And then from there, it's kind of like a snowball effect.
Yeah, you solve the problems of the people who you actually want to work with and then come to you, right?
Exactly,
It's funny how that works. So that's lead flow. In terms of resells, what specifically do you do here?
Yeah, so that was a big one. Probably the biggest thing that we've started doing since joining your program was we got people in, but then after initially setting them up for either a 6 month, it wasn't even 6 months, I actually started with only 3 months. But actually selling longer packages so they actually could stick longer and therefore actually see better results. But then after their initial kind of like agreement, contract, reselling them afterwards as well, which is something we've never really done. And so during like a special offer, whether it's Black Friday, New Year's, Christmas, whatever, having like a promotion or an offer to resell them was something we've never done, and we started doing, and that was probably the biggest thing that gave like the quickest results.
And this is where the easiest people for you to sell, the people
Yes.
who've already actually given you money, because
Easiest thing.
they believe in the process, and it's like, would you like to resell and join for another 12 months? Yes, like here's a payment link.
100%. Yeah, getting them in the door is obviously the tough part, but once they're in, it's so much easier to resell them because they know the process, they know the results they're getting, they know you as a person, and they trust you. So reselling them is like a no-brainer to them.
What would you say to people, in particular in the British market? They're like, oh, I like people paying monthly, and they're afraid to try and resell people up front.
One thing you always say all the time is money now is better than money later. And it's never guaranteed, right? Because I used to do monthlies all the time prior to joining. And it's an easier sell on the sales call, 100%. But you never know, their card could get declined. They may have an injury. They may they may quit their job. Stuff always happens typically. And whenever something goes bad in their personal life, unfortunately, the first thing that they tend to kind of like get rid of is their health and fitness goals, right? So yeah, money now is way better than money later. One thing I'll add on top of that for people in the US, financing a firm or Klarna is also a great way for them to finance the payments. So you get all the money up front, whereas they can do monthly payments as well.
And I think this is something that people massively underestimate, is that when a client has paid for 6 to 12 months up front, that they are much more committed actually into getting in shape and much more better for a client. And you as a coach can actually coach them how you want, rather than having to be like, oh, I don't want to have the difficult conversation that Karen, you need to put the donuts down.
Yeah, for sure. And you can also think more long-term with them, right? Because if they're sold in for 6 or 12 months and they know that, it's like you can kind of like pre-plan their schedule in advance, and they know what's coming, you know what's coming, and there's going to be no conflict whatsoever.
100%. So that's sales and making money ticked off. In terms of data is the least sexy subject, but probably the thing that makes people the most money. What specifically were you struggling with tracking?
So I wasn't tracking anything. I do think that when you first kind of get started, and I think one of your clients, Ilya, says this as well, where you can pretty much kind of like grind your way through 10, even 20K months, but then beyond a certain point, things will start to leak, get through the buckets, and that's when like really just like knowing your numbers really, really helps. And it just kind of makes your mind more at ease because you know if these are the numbers, like if I want to get X results, and I know that Y and Z are here, then I just know if I kind of change up these numbers, improve it here, improve it there, it just makes it a lot more sense as opposed to just like putting things by chance, basically.
100%. And this is where basically the numbers will give you certainty and conviction.
Yeah.
And a saying like is if you're not tracking, you're slacking because you literally, if you do not know how many calls you're booking every day, how many messages you're booking every day, sending every day, you don't actually know what the problem is in your business. And this is the first thing I personally look at people's business. I will ask them loads of specific questions, and a lot of time I get the hesitation of, I think it's that like it either is or isn't, and if it's I think it is, you don't know. Yeah. So I'd say this is a huge metric to get locked in. The basics everyone needs to know is how many outbound messages you're sending every day, how many follow-up messages you're doing, how many sales calls you're booking, what your closing rate is. We'll come on to in a minute. And then average cash collected per call is a very useful number, and then actually tracking your revenue and profit. These are like the beginner level things you have to know. Most people don't even track their profit, which is insane.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny because as coaches, we tell our weight loss clients, you gotta keep track of the numbers, keep track of whatever, your steps, your weight, your calories, right, your workouts. And if you tell people to do that to your weight loss clients, but you yourself don't do that in your own business, it's kind of incongruent there, so yeah.
One way I would do this, and I like to try and systemize things so they happen, is I would add in your calendar once a week where you go through all the number and the data. So for me, for example, I'll go through all of our business finances on a Friday morning, and I will do that religiously and go through all the bank statements, everything, so I know exactly what's going on. So from a tracking perspective, if you are slacking on that right now, put in your calendar specifically when you are going to do that and just do it every single week.
Yeah, and one thing that really helped me as well was simply knowing the numbers, but then having like an Excel sheet that can actually spit out the results because of that. Because I don't really know good math. Like I know the numbers, but putting them together and then getting the closing percentage, all this type of stuff, I don't really know. So having like a sheet that you can put it in, I can spit out answers, which obviously you guys have in the mastermind, literally plugs out your numbers right away. So yeah, that really helps.
Yeah, and that's tracking, and that's why like when it comes to closing rates, a lot of people think they have a lead generation, a lead flow issue. A lot of the time it's actually a sales issue and a sales process issue. And I can give an example. I was at a business event this weekend, and a girl said she hates taking sales calls and her sales system doesn't work, and then asked what's her closing rate. She was like, I don't know. I was like, well, that's the fundamental problem. You don't even know any of the numbers or what the actual problem is you're trying to solve. One of the things that, and obviously you've used this as well, is we use like a plug and play template spreadsheet where you can track all your numbers and it will give you everything through. And it's an easy for you as well to see, okay, what's my average closing percentage for January, February, March, like what the actual objections are, and then like what the problem is you need to solve.
Yeah, for sure. And on this data point, like it almost gamifies it as well, where if you know the numbers and you kind of play around with them, it's like it makes it more fun, right? You can gamify it and you actually want to improve on those numbers too.
And I'll give a great statistic that you can work out off this spreadsheet is you can work out how much money you make per hour on a sales call. And that will actually re-change your brain in terms of how you allocate your time. So if I know, for example, I take sales calls, how much I make per hour, it makes me realize the amount it's costing me sitting here filming this video right now, or going to Walmart, or doing whatever I'm going to do. And that's where you start to be more intentional with the things you do on a daily basis.
100%. On that note, really quickly, one thing that you kind of like blew my mind with was simply saying like, you don't need to be cooking, you don't need to be or whatever it may be, right? Like all those small little tasks that you can very easily outsource because, yeah, knowing your numbers, it's like if you know your hourly rate, it's like, okay, is me going grocery shopping worth it? Or is taking another sales call better worth of my time, right? So I think knowing your numbers can actually help you make better decisions, not just in your business, but probably in your personal life too.
And that's when you're looking to grow your business. The way I try and structure my life, and particularly if you're here in Dubai, it's very easy to do, is I'm either working or I'm enjoying myself. The bit in the middle of bullshit, I will try and systematize and delegate someone else to do, which is then actually when you have a more fulfilling life because you actually enjoy it, but you're also way more successful.
100%, yeah.
So that would be data. And then lastly, in terms of you scaling your business, there's a couple of things we touched on upon this. So one of the things you wanted to ask about was lead magnets and selling from stories, right?
Yeah.
So you mentioned something a minute ago about your dad and like running. I would make, like even going to ChatGPT and make me a lead magnet of a workout program to go from transitioning from being a runner every day to like basic gym program. I just made this running to gym program, DM me Run Fit or whatever, and I'll send it to you. And like, I would do that and create different lead magnets specific to your audience and use the fuck around and find out method of just seeing like what do actually people want, what do people respond to most, and do like the one story method when you post one story. And I showed this at the event as well with, you know, how we automate conversations.
Yeah.
I would then pull people from the lead magnets and then I would take them into YouTube and I would make one video a week on some of these specific topics and try and get them to pop off, but send people from the lead magnets and stories into the YouTube videos to warm them up that will try and like pull them back into the ecosystem.
Okay.
Because I think for you, you've got a big short form audience on there as well. And also on YouTube, you've got a big short form audience. But that would be a really high leverage thing you could do that would just start to stack over time.
So with the lead magnets, obviously that's obviously one way to do that. Would you also recommend having a lead magnet to start the conversation with someone who's interested in that?
Yeah, in what respect, sorry?
So let's say you have a lead magnet on your story, message me this keyword if you want it for free. You send them the lead magnets, whether it's a YouTube video or a PDF, and then from there you kind of get them into the conversation.
Oh, 100%. So the goal is, the whole lead magnet is just to start the conversation, but I would drop, so what I would do, this is the framework for everyone, I would send, thanks for the message, here's the link for the Run Fit guide. Can you let me know it opens okay? We've had some issues with the link. So then reply, so then it can go to the second message. Second message I would send would be then like, awesome, how long have you been trying to get in shape using running, question mark? I also made this dope video in terms of how I took my dad from being a runner to getting out of dad bod shape to training in the gym. There's a load of insights that will help you as well. They'll hopefully reply to the first question, watch some of the video, and then you start to like buy them a storytelling in. That'd actually be cool because if you're talking about your dad, it's like storytelling, right? What I'd also do in the YouTube videos, I would also send them back to the DMs by offering, like I mentioned before, more like lead magnets. So it's like, oh, if you actually enjoyed this video and you're a runner who wants to transition to the gym, I actually have a supplement list of the top 5 supplements you can take to help reduce inflammation in your joints if that's something you've been suffering with. DM me joint list on Instagram and I'll send you over the guide. Okay,
so you say basically a lead magnet could either be like a PDF that you create or it could also even be a YouTube video.
It could be a YouTube video, it can be Google Documents. And this is where like, it's almost like an ecosystem, you just wheel between the two of them. But the goal is if you can get from the short form into the long form, like we said earlier, if they watch the long form content, they're much more bought in and they're a higher level user, and you can also automate this whole flow.
Yeah, using ManyChat or?
ManyChat, or you can do it in go high level with DM sequences.
I see. So I do know a lot of coaches that do lead magnets. Do you notice there's like a fine balance between, like how many times per week would you do one of these?
I do them quite a lot, so I maybe do like 3 to 4, but I would do it mixing in with other stories. So like the goal of what I'm trying to do is just constantly create conversations, but offer different things that solve different problems. And then what I would do is I would also create like a folder in your phone album, photo album, where you just save all of these. So if you're ever like pressed for time, you can just throw one up. So there's always something in your story that people can DM for. Because you're in soccer, so it's a great analogy. So your goal is that like your DM setter is like Cristiano Ronaldo, and your goal is that you have to get the ball to Ronaldo to put it in the goal.
You're the assister?
Yeah, so you have to set the assist, and the assist comes from you posting the thing that then gets the message to come in, so he can score the goal, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense. So you mentioned, obviously there's the one story method, but then sometimes you have it between like multiple stories. Yeah,
just so it looks slightly spammy. So if I have a day, like I did it yesterday, we filmed a podcast, I did some other stuff, I'll just mix it in with like 4 or 5 other stories. So it's in there.
Yeah, but the results, I assume, aren't as good.
The results would be less extreme. So I would do that with maybe like one of the ones out of a folder, which is an old one. But then if I was going to make something new that I think is going to bang, I would do that just on its own. And then the story cadence I would do is on like a Sunday, I would do like a direct CTA post of like, I'm looking for 5 guys who want to get in great shape for the summer, blah, 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 blah. And then like probably at least like a Wednesday, I would do like a direct lead magnet on its own. So give it a couple of days and maybe another one on like a Friday or something. So do couple days a week with a one story thing. And then the way I try and structure it is days that I'm doing cool shit, I might post some stuff in my stories. If I'm just like working on Zoom all day and like it's not particularly exciting, so I'm probably not going to do that, and that's why I would do like the one story thing.
Yeah, because I have noticed that the more stories you post, the less views you get. So yeah, I think using those one story methods strategically makes sense.
For the stories, I personally think you cap them at 4 to 6 max. Once you go over 6, it just seems to tank. Like when we have the mastermind event and like loads of people tag me in stories and we repost them, I get like 1,000 views because I posted like 100 stories. The whole thing just crushes and it just goes through the floor. So I think, which is weird because it's almost like an inverse relationship that you get rewarded for posting less on Instagram stories, which doesn't really make any sense. But you need to utilize and maximize the platform for what you want. And in my opinion, stories is the biggest lead mechanism thing you can do from a conversion point for inbound. The other thing I do from lead magnets though as well is also like your reels bang, right? So I put them on the end of some of the reels that work really well, but then also the highest performing reels I then also put into like a carousel posts, like the exact same copy and hook. Like we do that all the time. And then what happens is the copy that works in the reels will even perform better in the carousel post because most people go on Instagram and they don't have the sound on. So they'll read the carousel, they'll swipe, read the carousel, swipe, and then they'll comment. And then you can automate the reply to get them into the sequence. Yeah,
so one thing that kind of got me thinking is because Instagram obviously lowers your reach the more you post, but then I also personally kind of struggle with like having that fine balance between I also want to show my personality on my stories, I want to talk on my stories so people can actually know me. So I think it's actually a good idea to have the lead magnets sometimes go to like a long form YouTube video where you can just sit down, have a chat with them, or just like use your personality, as opposed to, I guess my question is, how would you show off your personality through Instagram, or would you only use YouTube to really show off?
I would think long form is better for that, in my opinion, generally, because it's very difficult. It's easy to fake something for 30 seconds on a story. Like,
it is.
The best example is people who put up like themselves crying on their Instagram. Like, you literally put a tripod up and press record. So I think the best thing you can do is try and put them to long form. But what I would do is on the days, maybe like, probably on a Saturday, I tend to fuck around and post more stuff because I'm doing things. So if I feel like talking about something, I'll talk on my stories then. And then the select 2-3 days a week, I'll just try and focus on one story.
Gotcha. Yeah. Cool.
Anything else on that?
No, lead magnets, I think we covered it.
Also, if you do YouTube as well, I would make sure you send that YouTube video to your email list every single week because that's distribution that can warm up old people as well.
Okay. Gotcha. Cool.
Took value from the video, smash the like button, comment below any questions. And if you want help in terms of scaling your own online fitness business, there's a link below the video, you can book in a free call. I'll actually personally take the calls from these videos. So you book it with me, I will audit your entire business and see how we can help you make a success story like Conan. And we'll see you next video very soon.